Developing an academic researcher profile and managing your research environment, getting started, and tips for success. Are you publishing or presenting research in your discipline? Do you want to make the most of the impact of your research? Develop an online researcher profile and make your research more discoverable by researchers globally. Online tools such as ORCID, ResearchGate, Web of Science, and Google Scholar Citations can be useful for establishing a successful online academic profile. They can increase the impact of your research, ensure credit for your work, and streamline the publishing and grant funding process. The goal of this video is to give you an introduction to what a researcher profile is, discuss the importance of developing a profile as a new researcher, share tips regarding maintenance of your profiles and raising visibility, and discuss some of the more widely used tools and websites. One of the most important factors in getting your research noticed, read, and cited is accessibility. You need to make it easy for others to find your work. One way to make your research easy to find is to create researcher profiles and start to gather your research in one place. In an increasingly competitive research and scholarship environment, how do you distinguish yourself from someone? If your institutional affiliation or contact information changes, how is the link between you and your scholarly work maintained? The solution is creating a researcher profile. A profile pulls all research together in one place, mitigating common problems that often arise in searching. Online profiles identify you and link you to your work. They ensure credit for your research. They increase citations and impact, and they help you build your professional reputation. For example, let's take a look at this search for Ana Garcia. The results show multiple entries based on the name, and even when you add the additional search term anthropology, the results still show entries that may or may not be who you're looking for. Some of this can be solved by developing your researcher profile and ensuring your research is associated with you. As you can see in this example, is this the same author? You have George R.R. Martin, who's listed as George Martin, George Raymond Richard Martin, George R.R. Edwards. Most likely they are the same person who's just published under different names, but having a researcher profile to pull all of these different names together is recommended. A researcher profile helps build name authority and end the disambiguation. This is an example of the Texas State faculty profile system, and here you have the faculty profile. You see that they have their scholarly work, their awards, their grants, and their service all in one place, and you can also download the faculty CV from the system. This is a proprietary system that's used by Texas State, but we're going to actually look at some systems that are open source and websites. Think of a researcher profile as a unique identifier or as a DOI for you. Typically, they will assign either a number or a URL when you're creating your researcher profiles. A few things you might want to consider when you are choosing the researcher profile tool. Will the profile be easy to maintain? Is it widely used? Are my colleagues and peers using this tool? Is a research tool interdisciplinary? Does it provide networking capabilities? What about metrics? Will it allow me to show the impact? Will it also allow me to upload and share copies of my work? These are just things that you want to think about when choosing a tool. Researcher profile tools are meant to be professional and intended to showcase your work and make yourself and your research more discoverable. They're intended to be public, and they do require updating, so our tip here is to pick 1 to 3 and maintain them. The next few segments of the video will discuss features of some of the most used profile tools to help you make an informed decision when deciding which tool to use. ORCID is the Open Researcher and Contributor ID. It allows researchers to create a profile that includes publications, grants, and research publications. You maintain privacy controls of all parts of your profile. You want to include your ORCID ID on your homepage, when you submit applications or apply for grants, etc. Texas State is an ORCID institutional member. You can log into ORCID with your Texas State NetID and password. You can also import your ORCID records into the Texas State faculty profile system. Some of the features is you are assigned a 16-digit alphanumeric identifier. It transitions to any institution, so once you have an ORCID ID, it remains with you. You can automatically search and import your research, and it streamlines the publication and funding submission process. And it's important to consider having an ORCID ID because more and more journals are requiring it as part of the submission process, and it will allow you to reliably connect you with your work. A few things you want to include when setting up your ORCID ID is you want to include those name variations and other identifiers. You want to have an institutional and a personal email as a backup, and you just want to set your personal email to private. But you do want to make your ORCID ID public because the importance is to make your research more visible. Importing and maintaining is pretty easy. Setting up the initial ORCID ID may require a little bit of effort if you have a lot of research that you've already had published. You can also use the Crossref tool to import, but sometimes that might be a lengthy list if you have a similar name or a common name. But it's easier to start early in your research professional development and just keep it updated as you go along. This just shows the circle of how ORCID works with the publisher, the employer, and the funder. The next tool we're going to talk about is the Google Scholar Citation Profile. Creating a Google Scholar Citation Profile will make sure that Google Scholar will easily and accurately group all the citations of your publications into one pool. A profile generally lists your name, chosen keywords of research interest, generated citation metrics, and citations, including links to citing articles. Some of the key features, it allows you to track your citation metrics, it gives you your H-index score, it allows you to follow collaborators and colleagues. It does increase the discoverability of your work because it's indexed in Google Scholar or in Google. It searches across disciplines. It will allow you to save your research in My Library. You can also see who's citing your research and download those metrics. And it does enable you to share your research widely. Here's an example of a Texas State faculty member. You can see that she has her faculty research interests listed. She has her faculty credentials. She also has, you can see where she has her cited and citation count. Her H-index is listed for the years of publication. Things that you want to include with Google Scholar is you want to just verify your Texas State email. You can add contributors and co-authors. You do have to have a Google account. All information is public minus your personal info, but keep in mind it is Google. And your citations count from all sources. You can set for your importing and maintaining, you can set it to automatically update or review and confirm updates. Our recommendation here is to review and confirm. The Web of Science Researcher ID allows you to collect your work if you've published in a Web of Science indexed journal. So this is an online subscription-based tool. It allows you to gather your citation metrics. There is integration with ORCID. Things to consider with the Researcher ID is that it's only items that are included in the Web of Science database. It's used by Clarivate Analytics only. It's based on a limited number of publications. But you are automatically assigned this researcher ID if you've published in a Web of Science indexed journal. So you only need to update your personal information when needed. A similar profile tool is the Scopus Author ID. This is Elsevier's abstract and citation database. Some of the key features is that it does provide system-generated citation metrics in the Scopus journals. It ensures correct attribution of your works. You can get the number of cited references. It does exchange data with ORCID. Again, some things to consider is that it's only used by Scopus based on a limited number of publications. But again, keeping your personal information updated is the only thing you really have to do because you're automatically assigned to the author ID profile when you publish in a Scopus indexed journal. The Pivot database is a funding and collaborator discovery database. And so you might consider creating a researcher profile in the Pivot database if you are seeking grant funding opportunities. You can set up your research interests and allow, based on those interests, you can set up an alert to where you'll be notified when there are funding opportunities in your research field. You can also share and track your funding, and you can network and identify collaborators. The next two websites we're going to talk about are kind of referred to as academic social media networks. Scholarly social networks are becoming more popular among scholars as a way to share their work, find collaborators, interact with peers, and obtain new metrics to demonstrate their research impact. In addition to the traditional number of citations, these metrics include number of reads, downloads, or mentions in blogs or tweets. One thing to keep in mind about ResearchGate is that it is interdisciplinary. It allows you to get those citation counts. Sometimes it's referred to as the Facebook for researchers. It will allow you to upload your research if you have the copyright to do so. And then you can also request the full text directly from the author if it's available. Academia.edu is a similar website. It is interdisciplinary in nature. It allows you to get usage counts, downloads, and views. You can also, again, upload your research. And this also includes a job board, and so you can post and view academic openings. This is a frequent favorite for graduate students. So now that you've learned a little bit about the reasons why you should create a researcher profile and about some of the features of the most used tools, follow the link to the Developing a Researcher Profile subject guide for more information and a step-by-step guide to creating a profile on the different platforms. Thank you.